Hello and welcome to Storical. I am your host, Peter Roberts. At Storical, we think your stories are historical. History is the story of you, and they deserve to be recorded and shared. Storical is the place you come to for advice on how to capture life story, tools to use, and how to complete your project. Listen to experts, memoir writers, and product reviews. Let's inspire you to start. Hello and welcome to episode 18 of Storical. Today my guest is Cathi Nelson, who is founder and CEO of the Association of Personal Photo Organisers, APPO. Yes, today we talk digital and organisation of images. Cathi was always a scrapbooker, and she actually found the business when she was helping a friend collect and organise her extensive photo collection. Cathi tells us that APPO is a growing organisation with nearly 1,000 members, whose aim is to help consumers digitise and organise and share their photos. Welcome, Cathi, to Storical. Cathi, can you tell me how you started APPO and how does it work?
The APPO is the acronym for the Association of Personal Photo Organizers, which in retrospect is kind of a mouthful. We were just laughing about how it sounds when you say Apple. It sounds like Apple and it's not Apple. But I got started. It's a fascinating story in the sense of really seeing a need in the marketplace and finding a solution. So I was always loved making scrapbook type photo albums where I would print my photos, and then I loved the scrapbook because I wanted to tell stories. So my family photo albums are filled with a lot of journaling about summer vacations and things along with the photos. And I noticed in about 2009, as digital photography was kind of taking over, that I was printing less photos, and so were most of my family and friends. And they were asking me for assistance, like, I need to email this photo, or this is before we were taking all our photos with our phones, but how do I get my photos from my memory card to my computer? I was helping my friends, and then a friend said, well, what do you charge per hour to assist me? And I had never considered such an idea. And she insisted that she pay me to drive to her house to help her. So I finally agreed. And when I got to her home, not only did she have memory cards filled with photos that she couldn't get from her computer, from her memory card to her computer, she had pulled out the boxes of photos she had inherited from her parents who had passed away. She was one of 4 siblings. She had promised to take all those photos, have them digitized in the letters, memorabilia, and distribute it to her siblings, and was feeling completely guilty that she hadn't gotten around to it. Meanwhile, she had 2 children who were high school age. And so she had a combination of their life photos, their baby photos were all the analog printed photos, but she was losing touch with all the digital photos that were taking over her life. And she said, Cathi, I don't care how long it takes, but I guarantee you there's hundreds of other Marias just like me out there who would want somebody to help them. So I thought, wow, I wonder if that's true. I came home, I came up with the concept of photo organizing because I realized that to tell the stories that she wanted me to tell with her photos, we had to get organized first. And I found myself quite busy with clients very quickly as I started promoting that service. And that was, almost 9 years ago. And today we've grown to an association that serves thousands of members who assist clients, helping them with all the things that they need done with their family photos and memories.
So tell me how the association works.
The cornerstone of who we are is training. I started it really as people would find me and say, could you teach me how to do what you're doing? I started realizing it was silly for people to have to all reinvent the wheel. So I came up with the idea of a membership community where the cornerstone of that is training. So every month we offer a free training webinar on every topic, from hot topics like how do you add metadata to your digital photo collection, or how do you manage your photos in iPhotos on a Mac now that all that keeps changing, or how do you market and grow your business? How do you scan photos? Every month we offer a training webinar that's archived in our training library. And we also have a certification program because this is actually a growing profession. Just like there were once people had never heard of personal coaches or personal trainers, this has become more common and I think a growing need that's not going away. And so we also have a strong code of ethics that our members live by. We offer, again, making sure that our members are well qualified to work with clients. So we have a certification training program in place.
APPO is a membership organisation. Who comprises your members?
Our members right now consist of over close to 1,000 members who are everything from personal historians to professional photographers, professional organizer, graphic designers. I always say if you love photos and you love stories, then you can start a business as a photo organizer. So our members all have unique individual identities. So if you went to our website and search for somebody maybe where you live, you'll notice that, and you click on their individual websites, everybody has a little different kind of approach to the clients they serve and the services that they offer. They find us, join the association, and look for a really great community of support. So our members, they help each other. If you ended up with a client who your passion is making videos, documentaries of their life stories, but you get to their home and they say, well, I have all my videos here on my iPhone. You could go to our membership community and say, I don't know how to get all those videos off that person's iPhone. Can somebody tell me what to do? And our members quickly respond from all over the world with assistance to one another as they help each other kind of tackle all these problems that people have with their technology.
So you said you have weekly or monthly trainings for your members.
Correct. Mm-hmm.
So that would be in various areas that members of your association specialise in. And I'm kind of tempted to call them photo organisers, but not all of them are photo organisers.
The brand name is Photo Organizers, but underneath that, it's just a very diverse, growing community of people that find us who realize that there's kind of they fit within the organization. So we're not just limited to photo organizers. The training that we do is always online. It's a webinar where it's recorded. We also have annual neighborhood meetings, we call them, where in the bigger areas where there's enough members, so like Chicago or Connecticut, Florida, Dallas, the California area, members will meet quarterly. And we have an annual educational conference. Our sixth conference will be in Raleigh, North Carolina, and we have over 175 people already registered, 16 different breakouts, main stage speakers, and quite a few companies that come to exhibit there who really want to get their products in front of our members.
That's huge.
Yeah, it's exciting. And a lot of companies will contact us. In fact, I'm talking to one right now called Joy Albums. I mean, it's interesting if you look it up, but it's a digital photo album that it looks like a tablet. It's really interesting. They've kind of gone with the idea of a printed photo book, but it's digital. Really interesting company. People like lots of companies like that really want to test their products with our members because they recognize our members are in the consumer's home helping them, and they really want the feedback that our members can provide about whether they're creating the kind of product that the consumer might be interested in. So we're really kind of on the forefront of a lot of cutting edge technology as well, because we're out there with the consumer.
So let's go to the consumers and why are they in a bind when it comes to photo organising?
I think there's not a person today, like if I knew when I started this how big of a problem, I'd like to say I anticipated this, but of course I had no way of knowing. I keep trying to get the statistics. They change constantly of how many billions of photos are now taken every day. When we suddenly started carrying, a mobile phone became our point and shoot camera. It's just people are completely overwhelmed, not only with the number of digital photos that they're taking every day, but also their backlog of printed photos that they never took out of the envelopes that are organized, that are under the bed in the shoe boxes and drawers, but also maybe their home movies that are now on outdated. You don't have a camcorder anymore, and you have your whole 20 years of your family's stories on little camcorder videos that suddenly you realize you can't see. People that we help is really just about anybody, but usually we've recognized that there's kind of a trigger point that happens that when they want to make that phone call. It's usually a life event is happening. So maybe there's a baby going to be born, and the grandparents are suddenly looking at the old baby photos of their son or daughter, and they want to show those photos so they can see how does a baby look like that person. Or there's a wedding and you want to do that video montage to music at the wedding, or have those what the bride and groom look like when they were babies. Or there's a 70th birthday, or a 50th wedding anniversary, or a death happening, or a family member with Alzheimer's. All of those are moments when people really suddenly seek to reconnect with their family memories that are usually a combination of photographs, stories, memorabilia, letters, artwork. And at that point, a lot of times they really need somebody to come and kind of make sense of all that for them. And that's when we step in.
Do consumers have a goal, or do they just want it organised because they want it out of the way?
A lot of times they do have a goal. In the organization, I always say is a means to an end. So most people don't look at their collection and just think, I want this organized. They're usually like, oh, I want to make that video. I don't even know where to get started. And so they need somebody to come in and start to curate, go through those photos. It's like, how do we find the best photos? But then it becomes a relationship. A great story I love to tell is one of my first clients was a really busy physician. She and her husband were both physicians. She just initially wanted all the boxes of photos in her down in her basement organized by child, their baby photos, and all the way up through. They were just in high school. But then I said to her, "Do you want me to make a photo book of Joseph of his first 2 years?" Because most people take the majority of photos in the first early years of a child's life. And she was thrilled. And I said, well, give me 3 words to describe Joseph. So he was inquisitive, curious, and rambunctious or something. So I just looked for all the photos that kind of represented him in those stages of at that point and put together a photo book. And she loved it. And so then she wanted me to make one for each of her other children. And then they went on vacation and she came back and she said, could you take all my photos, these digital photos, and make a photo book of our vacation? Well, absolutely. At that point, I knew who all the kids were. I knew who the parents were. I'd gotten to know who the uncles and aunts were. It's not a mystery of what we take photos of. So our members find quite frequently that they become then the family's memory keeper. And usually it's a relationship that becomes ongoing. Because when you sit with a client or a family, a person, and you start looking through opening up those boxes of memories, it really is personal work, which is why we call ourselves personal photo organizers as opposed to professional. I purposely made that decision because I feel like it's very meaningful personal work. You know, you're journeying along a person's life story with them as they kind of uncover those boxes. And so that's usually, again, that's, it's not always that case, but frequently they need something and then they ask for help and then they're so happy with the help that they want you to keep helping.
Let's get back to how they feel when they're facing this mountain of photos and videos. Do you find that people are overwhelmed, and how do you help them face the challenge?
From women in particular, there's a lot of guilt. And they tend to believe that everybody else's photos are organized and they're the only people whose photos aren't organized, which is absolutely not true. And I just wrote a blog that was really well received. Shoemaker has no shoes. I didn't ever get a chance to create a Christmas holiday card this year because I myself did not follow my own instructions to keep track of the best photos of the year. So it's not, I mean, we're all overwhelmed. It's technology. I really try and help people to understand. Number one is technology is moving faster than we are. And it's not that we have made the errors. Actually, I think the technology companies have not provided us with good solutions to this problem that we have. But so most people, though, do feel anxious and guilty. And then with all the hurricanes and the fires, I mean, what's the one thing that people most regret that they wish they could go back and save? It's those photos and things like that. So we do a lot of work in helping people understand that it's really important to take the time now to digitize those photos, get them stored safely, have a backup plan in place, because you never know when you're going to have to leave your home quickly. And it's happening on all coasts in different ways. So people they're fearful. They're afraid that they're losing their visual heritage. And so we try and provide them with that there's a solution. You don't need to be overwhelmed. We can help you. You're not alone. And there's help.
You help them with their challenge in different ways. Can you explain those? I think you coach them or you sit side by side with them. How do the organizers work?
Yeah, we like to say we have 3 ways that we help people. One, we could teach you how to do it. So you can come in and serve like as a consultant and kind of give somebody an overview of how to get started. Or we can sit side by side and do it alongside of you, which is not an uncommon way. We can completely do it for you, which a lot of our members have clients who just hand everything over and tell you them to do it. So it's kind of like a 3-pronged approach, depending on what the client's comfort level is. A lot of times people think that they're going to do it themselves, and they fairly quickly realize that they'd rather have somebody else do it for them.
Why is that?
I think because it's time consuming and it's tedious and more than they anticipated. I mean, if you're retired or you're a person who has the kind of time, but I think a lot of people are just busy today. It's a high value and a high need, but they have low time. I mean, if you told my grandparents that you would pay somebody to walk your dog, can you imagine? I mean, my Depression era grandparents, but dog walking, these places for dogs. I mean, it's just symbolic of the world that we live in today, that our lives are just getting busier and busier. And so many things need to be outsourced to another person to help you with it.
So once photos are scanned, you've given us an example of where your first client wanted books made. What do people do with their photos once they are digitized and scanned?
Well, the important thing to do is to decide on where you want them backed up, and then metadata is just a fancy word for saying acting like you're writing on the back of your photo. So it's really important that that information be captured so that you can search for them in the future. And the more information you add to that photo, the easier it will be to find them. So that's really important. So our members will scan photos, add the metadata, and then upload them into a photo organizing program that the client prefers. Everything from SmugMug, which are online photo galleries, to Dropbox, or put them on a flash drive. But flash drives will also become obsolete in time. So we follow the 3-2-1 backup rule, where you should have 3 copies of your photos stored in on multiple devices and things like that. So our members make sure that happens. And then whether it's people want photo books or whether they just want they know their photos are safe in case there's a fire. I mean, it depends on what the person is looking to do at that point. But really, they want them easily accessible so that if you're looking for a birthday party photo, you want to be able to quickly find that and not be searching through thousands and thousands of images just to find that great photograph that you remember seeing once, 5 years ago.
Can you give us examples of where people have used their photos for special occasions?
There's nothing more powerful than music set to photos. My brother, memorial service, my brother just passed away at 54. I was able to get, our old family slides scanned and give that to my mother. But at the funeral life celebration, I played it with I'll Do It My Way by Frank Sinatra with, all these photos of him from a little boy through adulthood and manhood. And it was powerful. Or creating memorial poster boards. A lot of our members will work with clients, with families with, say, early stage Alzheimer's. There's actually just an article, too, in our paper today about the importance of memory books as people age. So, creating, it can be very helpful at that time to be able to look through those photos and things like that. Wall galleries, it's really important to have photos in your home. Today, there's all these like digital photo frames. Nixplay is one. For instance, my mom, in her 80s now has a digital photo frame. And my kids, when they take a picture, if they use the app, she can see that if they're like, my son was in Madagascar, he could take a photograph and magically it can appear on my mom's frame. To her, it's really magic in her living room in Connecticut. Well, my son is in Madagascar. So it's reconnecting the generations with their family photos. There's ways to help with that.
Can you tell me a little bit more about how photos help people with Alzheimer's?
We know that the memories that people can access are earlier memories usually, so photos of their childhood or their parents and things like giving them back dignity in a way. I mean, we've heard people talk about one from the caregivers to see like this is a person who actually really had a life, all the way to them recognize that those are the memories that aren't lost as quickly. It's more current memory that goes first, and so there can be a sense of comfort in looking at those photo albums and things.
What kind of regrets do consumers have about their photos?
I think a lot of people regret they haven't, done something more with them. When we were taking printed photos, we could see them, and there was a visual cue that you needed to do something with those photos. Whether they stayed in the envelopes, most people would pick up them at your 1-hour photo lab, and you'd run home and look through them, and then put them in a box or a drawer. And many times they're still just like that, in those little envelopes with their negatives and things. Today, unfortunately, you don't see them and there's not a visual cue. They're just kind of lost. People will not realize they think they have their hard drive backing up their computer, and they find out that when their hard drive crashes that all those photos weren't really backed up. People are just devastated when they realize they've lost decades, maybe a year, 2, 3 years of an entire photo collection that they thought they had access to and they don't. A hard drive outside of your computer is just like the hard drive in your computer. It's not a matter of if it will fail, it's just a matter of when. But people just don't think that way. So because they're not educated, and again, that's where I feel like the industry itself hasn't really spent any time educating the consumer about the mystery of all of this.
Well, that's another question I was going to ask you. You mentioned that photos can bridge generations. Do you find that people of different ages have different levels of education when it comes to organising and managing their photos?
Yeah, they feel like this generation, they say it's the most photographed generation in history, is the most at risk of losing their entire visual heritage. The young generation, they see photos differently than we do. That it's a short moment on Instagram or Snapchat or things like that. As they head into them getting married and the parenting stage, suddenly the photos become very important to them again. And actually, it's just like LPs are coming back into style. So is film, dark rooms, using traditional cameras. It's kind of becoming a trendy thing among the younger generation. There's no question that photos connect generations with one another. It's a chance to sit around the table and share stories. And there's been concern that the younger generation doesn't care as much. I just think they care differently. Part of me feels like we have to change the language a little bit. That this is a new idea I've had, but we call everything a photograph. When everything we snap with our phone, we say it's a photograph, but really a lot of it isn't a photograph. I take pictures of receipts and shoes I might buy, or a meal I'm thinking of cooking, or a recipe I need, and I call that a photograph. Well, that's nestled sometimes right next to the photo of my daughter, heading off to her first day of college. That picture of that recipe is completely unimportant to me and shouldn't really be called a photograph, because the picture of my daughter on her first day of school is what I really care about. So I think, again, it's also a matter of re-educating people about what is a photograph and what do you want to save and what do you want to discard. The problem is nobody's discarding anything. They just keep everything.
Do you find that people are resistant to letting go when they do need to go through their collection and cull photos?
Once they understand that you're not getting rid of everything, they don't. At first, there is an emotional connection a lot of times, and so you don't want to push people to do what they can't. But we recommend, it's an acronym I came up called the ABCs of photo organizing. So the A photos, when I'm sitting down with a client, these are the A album worthy. They're the best photos that you have. The B photos are the ones you can't quite bring yourself to get rid of. You don't know if they're an A photo. They go back in the photo organizing box. The C photos are, yes, you can throw photos away. So when you start throwing away the blurry, the doubles, and then a lot of scenery shots, if you went to the Grand Canyon in 1997 or 1969, it's not that much different than it was. So you might want to keep one or two pictures of the Grand Canyon, but you don't need all 60 photos of the Grand Canyon. So we recommend people throw away a lot of their scenery shots. But the S is what really matters, and that does the photo tell a story. So if you know the story behind the photo, it may be the only photo you have of your grandfather making the silly face he always made. That becomes an A photo. Quick thought too is you don't have to always organize chronologically. So we take photos because we live in a chronological time, but we really remember and reminisce thematically. What are the themes of your family's life? Were you a family that loved to travel? Were you a family that loved to celebrate, have parties, play sports? If you just gather the photos or memories, letters, again, memorabilia, it's not always just photos, but you gather those components into one really fun way to view and remember those. It doesn't matter if they're in time order.
So you mentioned that the industry isn't doing consumers any favours by not educating and not helping them save their photos. Where do consumers go for education on how to organise and keep their photos?
I think they don't. That's the reason why we're growing, and there's such a need for us. There's because our members, just to learn how to do that, it's an ongoing. That's why we offer so much education, because I always say, well, you're just one step ahead of your customer, because we're learning all the time. Well, they keep changing, programs keep changing, companies keep updating things. They don't tell people. A lot of people don't realize that if your photos are up on Shutterfly, you have to pay to get them down. They don't. You don't. You're signing an agreement. They own your photos. Google will mine your photos if you put them on Google. A terabyte of free storage. Well, nothing is free. People don't realize that.
Cathi, can you tell me about the Photo Organising Academy?
Yeah, so we realized that there was a need for training for both professional photo organizers as well as the general public. So we created a site. It's called www.photoorganizers.academy. And so it's new. Right now, we have one free course on there that's working with water damaged photos. We quickly put that together after the numerous hurricanes last September, where we knew that people didn't realize, like, if you put your photos in the freezer, you can actually save water damaged photos. There's a lot of little tips. And so we had members that had been experts in dealing with the floods in Calgary and other locations who had created a tremendous amount of resources on how to manage and save your water damaged photos. So that's an example of one course that we have that's for free right now. We'll be adding more courses as time goes on. You'll have to check back, but that's new. So it's a Photo Organizer Academy, and we'll continue to add free content or low cost content to that as time goes on. There's a website, it's called saveyourphotos.org. Every September is Save Your Photos Month. And during that month, there's presentations throughout the country, throughout the world. Actually, we have members in Australia and United Kingdom and And then we also do live webinars that are free. And we really teach people about how to save their photos. So throughout the whole month of September, it's now being supported by a lot of retailers, and it's kind of becoming getting its own brand over time. And this will be I think our 5th or 6th year. So that's something. But on that website, we do have disaster help. We have disaster resources for Hurricane Harvey and other things like that. So you can go there and download. There's blogs and lots of information again about how to save your photos from disasters and different things like that.
And this is all free for consumers?
Yeah, all free content for consumers, yes.
Fantastic. So what advice would you give the audience if they're interested in organizing their photos?
Well, I just wrote a book. It took me, I thought I was going to write it in 3 months. It ended up taking me 1.5 years, but it's called Photo Organizing Made Easy, Going from Overwhelmed to Overjoyed.
Is it available on Amazon?
It's on Amazon. Yes, it just came out this month, and it's been selling very well. It's normally $14.95, but Amazon, it's selling so well, they've kept it at $7.95. I don't know how long. It's a book that breaks it down chapter by chapter. So printed photo organizing, digital scanning, home movie conversion, and then celebrate and share. I mean, that's certainly a starting place. We have lots of blogs that are written constantly. If they Google, help with photo organizing, there's a blog every week that we put out there by our members talking about all of this. I always say it's like eating an elephant. You just do it one bite at a time. So you don't have to do it all at once. Maybe have an end goal, like a small project that you want, and then slowly build your way up to having everything organized. And I also have a website, cathynelson.com, where I have handouts. So you can download what we call like the hunt and gather stage. That's the first thing. You have to figure out where all your photos are. So we have some great free handouts where you can start to keep track of where, so you have like a record where okay, I have, this many boxes under this bed, and I have photos in this closet, and I have, this many digital photos on this hard drive, and just basically a gathering kind of forms to help you keep track as you start to gather everything. So you can go to cathynelson.com and download that for free.
Let us know where the audience can get in touch with you after the show.
Yes, so cathynelson.com, you can email me through there. I've been getting more and more questions. I'm happy to answer any questions that people have, and that's where I'll continue to write my personal blog. So I'm writing more and more about this topic on my own. So the association was created for professionals, and the book in itself is created for the do-it-yourself market, the people that don't have the resources, or they want to just do it themselves. So we're trying to help both audiences.
That's great. Well, thank you very much, Cathi, for being on the show. I think you've really spotlighted photo organizing.
Okay, well, thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
Thank you for joining me in another episode of Storical. Feel free to let me know how you like Storical, either on iTunes or where you get your podcasts. Or you can email me, Peter, P-E-T-A, at Storical, STORYICAL.com. Never miss an episode by joining us at our website, storical.com. May Storical inspire you to story the historical, because it's never too soon to get started, but often it can be too late.